Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's a great crowd on a rainy day. I'm working two microphones here, because we're on the Hamilton channel, which is great. So if everybody could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Take seats. So you may have seen on Boston Common, 37,268 flags were planted for Massachusetts warriors and patriots that lost their lives. And that's why we're here today. And that's from, I believe, the revolution through this month of May. I made a little graphic to show you, which is not working, all the conflicts and wars that we've been in. And it's not ending. We're in Syria and Yemen now. The number nationally for combat death, and depending on sites you look at, it's all broken out differently. But the number nationally is 666,441. That's from 1775 to the current time. Total numbers, battle, probably wounds that succumbed to death, 2,852,901 with a plus sign. So the numbers are staggering. So I want to thank you all for coming today. This is great to have you here. We've got a great crowd here just to kind of go around the room. We've got the Hamilton Police Department in multiple locations. We always appreciate them here today. We've got the American Legion Riders, our Color Guard, our Rock Star, which we'll hear about later on, our Auxiliary, our Hampton Wenham Selectmen, our VSO, Karen Tyler, and of course, our favorite, Mrs. Joanne Patton. Yes. It's always nice to see you. And we've got our newly post 194 previous Wenham Legion members here that have now converted to 194. So we welcome everybody. So we're on schedule to eat at 8:30. So I'm going to let them start serving, and then we'll start the program after we eat.
Let us pray. Almighty God, giver of all victories, we thank thee for the opportunities which abide in our land, for the guidance of the hour of peril and thy tender love in times of need. Help us to remember with reverence the valor and devotion of our departed comrades, not only those whose bodies consecrate our country's soil, but also those who sleep beyond the seas and those others whose resting places will not be known until the last day when the deep will have given up its dead. O God, teach us to honor them by ever cherishing the ideals for which they fought. Keep us steadfast in the cause of human rights and liberties, of law and order, and true Americanism. Give us the power to see and the will to do the right. Grant that the American Legion may preserve the high ideal for which our comrades died. May thy merciful blessing rest upon those they left behind. Keep us forever firm in righteousness, humble of heart, and unselfish in purpose. Amen.
I have a couple of alibis as usual, because I'm not a professional speaker. I forgot to mention the fire department. We've got our chief here as well. He's always welcome. And Mrs. Patton has said that she'd say a few words for us. So.
That is represented here today, Hamilton and Wenham. And to be invited to this most special occasion is icing on my cake. But may I just say that we who are temporarily, I hope, disabled, have special feelings for those who've given all on this occasion and in the years past, as we have heard today. But I stand here in gratitude for the total service that you all represent, and may we who are in the wings do our best to deserve you. Thank you for letting me share this day.
Go around the room quickly. Can I have current military members stand up and be identified? Mike Drinkwater. World War II military members, stand up, please.
Let them sit down, we should stand up.
Colonel Henry. Korean War. We haven't got to our speaker yet. He was in all three. Vietnam. Post-Vietnam, Panama, Grenada, Desert Storm.
That's me.
Somalia. Will Dix. OEF. Hugh Lannon. I'm sorry? Karen over here. So when I was thinking about today and the wars we're in and why we're here today, I'm also thinking in the high schools or in schools in general. The teens are at war today, and it's a very confusing time for us in this country. The police are at war today. They're under the gun and taking hard times in the recent years. So there's a lot of things going on in this country that need to be changed. But groups like this get together and us coming together and being together, that's what it's about. We gotta change things as a group. So I want to go in and introduce our guest speaker. So our guest speaker, Douglas A. Bryant. He served in the U.S. Navy for 25 years. He's a retired senior chief engineer. He served in a submarine called Sea Dog during World War II. He's certified as a first-class deep-sea diver, hard helmet diver, and a scuba diver. He was an instructor at submarine escape train tank. He is a veteran of World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Cold War, while serving, I don't know if I'll pronounce this correctly, on the Intimidor submarine. And he's also an accomplished writer. He's written a book called The Navy Gave Me Shoes. So please welcome Douglas Bryant.
Thank you, Commander.
While he's setting up, I got one more alibi. Our friend in the corner, Mr. Brad Hill. Please stop doing his job.
If you can't hear me at times, if I drift away from the mic, raise your hand and I'll do the best I can.
Use both mics, I think.
Yeah.
So you can hold this one, this
Yeah,
end.
okay. Thank you, Commander McKenna, for the invite to be your guest speaker here today. I'm truly honored, and I thank you for those kind words. However, your commander missed one thing. I'm also a graduate of the Navy's instructor school. I graduated at number 2 in my class, but I only tell my closest friends there were only 2 of us in the class. So please don't expect too much today. Distinguished guests, fellow veterans, ladies and gentlemen, today, this Sunday, as we honor our deceased veterans, as well as all of our veterans, I will do a short reading. However, before my reading, please allow me a few minutes to talk about my background. I don't want to brag here today, but usually when I speak, I get so many questions about my uniform and the uniform still fit, and what is this and what is that, so I'll give you a brief rundown. When I retired from the Navy, my last tour of duty, I wasn't too happy. I kind of moved away from the Navy. Years later, a friend of mine passed away. He was a retired chief from the United States Navy. He was buried in his uniform. So I told my daughter, I said, that's the type of funeral I want. So I upgraded my uniform. That's why it fits me today. The other question that I usually get is, what does all the gold hash marks? And for you non-Navy people, bear with me. Your hash marks in the Navy at my particular time was usually red hash marks. If you achieved 12 years of good conduct, then you were allowed to wear gold hash marks. If you fouled up in 11 years, then you had to start again. So I have 6 hash marks. That's 24 years of good conduct. I refer to it as 24 years of undetected crime. My medals, I don't have any great medals. I don't have a Purple Heart, a Navy Cross, Bronze Star, and all that stuff. But I am a qualified submarine sailor. Most of all, I'm proud of my dolphins. These are known as the Dolphins. These are something you have to earn to be a submarine sailor. Before you earn your Dolphins, you're known as a non-qualified puke, and you don't get much respect. After you learn the whole submarine, all the systems and so forth, you earn your Dolphins, then you're known as your brother's keeper. Another thing that I'm proud of is my submarine combat pin. During World War II, making war patrols on submarines, you could go out on a war patrol, you could be severely depth charged or be in a lot of battles, but if you didn't sink a ship, you didn't get the combat pin. So you got the pin for the first successful war patrol, and then you got a pin in each one after that. So I made 3 successful war patrols, so I have the pin and the 2 stars in it. Sometimes people get confused about my diving career. So I want to start out by saying most submarine sailors aren't divers. Most divers aren't submarine sailors. In my particular case, I went from one to the other. I thought I was going to make some big money. That's why I went to deep sea diving school. And I thought I was going to go to the Far East, working on a salvage ship, making $5 an hour extra, plus my pay and everything. That didn't happen. I went to shore duty. Eventually, I wound up on a submarine rescue vessel. I won't use the words, but not the best ship I was on in the Navy. Luckily, with a little political pull, I got back to submarines. I served on a submarine for 5 years. There was an opening there was a quota that the submarine escape training tank had to fill for an underwater swimming school in Key West, Florida. So they didn't want to send one of their trained instructors in the tank. So I heard about it, and I talked to the officer in charge. So he said, would you be willing to go to underwater swimming school? I said, well, I would for a tour of duty at the tank. So going to some underwater swimming school, I had a tour of duty at the submarine escape training tank. Perhaps my best tour of duty in the Navy. Now, back to my notes. Oh, my name tag. Many people say to me, it's so nice that you wear a name tag if I can remember your name and everything. I said, no, wait a minute. I wear it for myself. So when I forget my name, I can look down and find out who I am. Today, distinguished guests, fellow veterans, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, I've already covered that. On the wrong page. I told you, I was number 2. I was born in Newburyport, Massachusetts in 1926. We lived in Amesbury. If you do your math correctly, that means I'm closer to 92 than I am to 91. The Depression came along, my father lost his job. He couldn't afford to pay the rent. My father was born and came from Snowville, New Hampshire. Anybody know where Snowville, New Hampshire is? Must be in the woods, right? How about Eaton, New Hampshire? We're still in the woods. Madison, New Hampshire. Now, good morning, Bruce. Nice to see you. Thank you, sir.
I just got in from Madison.
Oh, you did? Anybody asking for me? Okay. So, we lived, my father knew if he went back to Snowville, New Hampshire, he could find an abandoned farmhouse or something, and the owner would let him live in there rent-free as long as he kept the place up. Well, the problem was my father kept it up too good. So as soon as he'd have the place fixed up, the owner would sell it, we'd move to another place. But let me get back on track here a little bit. Let's talk about moving to Madison, New Hampshire. Madison, New Hampshire didn't have running water, didn't have electricity, didn't have central heat. You cut your own wood, you burn cordwood. You had an outhouse. And in the outhouse was the Sears and Roebuck catalog from last year. For you younger people that probably never heard of the Sears and Roebuck catalog, most of our buying in those days was by catalog, and it was a big, thick catalog. The pages were kind of coarse. They weren't very absorbent. But anyway, that's what we used in the outhouse. My mother, if she could save up a few coins, she might own a roll of toilet tissue. But that was not shared with the rest of the family. Well, my father was a hard worker and everything. Snowville was a poor town. I went to a one-room school, 8 grades in one room. I didn't learn very much. I was probably a poor student. When I was 10 years old, we moved to Madison, New Hampshire, which was a little more affluent town. So the home-style haircuts and the knickers didn't go over too good. So we kind of lived on the other side of the track. When World War II came along, there was money to be made. Defense companies and everything was hiring a lot of people. So as soon as I was 16, I got out of the Navy. I was going to make some big money. I thought I was going to go to Pratt & Whitney in Hartford, Connecticut. I had some friends that worked there. But I found out they wouldn't hire you until you were 17. The Boston Navy Yard would hire at 16. So I worked in the Boston Navy Yard when I was 16 in 1942. 37 cents and a half an hour. But I didn't think that was bad. I thought there'd be a lot of overtime. But I was hired as a mechanic learner. Now, a mechanic learner is not much good for production, so I didn't get any overtime. So I really couldn't afford to stay there very long. I moved back to Madison. And when I was 17, I joined the Navy. I knew a little bit about the Navy. I knew a friend that it really wasn't a friend, but I knew who he was. He was a submarine sailor. He had been on the Arizona, but luckily he got off the Arizona before the Arizona got sunk. And he wound up on the submarine Trout. And I noticed he used to come to the dances in Madison in his uniform. All the girls were after him. He could dance with all the girls. So I thought, gee, I think I want to join the Navy. I joined the Navy. Once you go in the Navy, naturally you have to go to boot camp. You have to learn something. After boot camp, they give you a series of tests, and I guess my mechanical ability was pretty good. So I went to motor machinist mate school. That have to do with diesel engines. And that was the time of the big push with all the landing craft and also submarines and everything. So there was a big demand for motor machinist mate. Luckily in our class there was an opening for two sailors to go to submarine school. I put in for submarine school mainly because submarines paid extra money. So luckily I went to submarine school and went through the various training and stuff at the submarine school. As soon as I graduated from submarine school, you could possibly go to the Pacific to a submarine operating in the fleet, or you might go to a school boat, you might go to a relief crew out in the fleet, or you might go to a brand new submarine. Luckily for me, I wound up on a brand new submarine. The brand new submarine, you already heard about it, the Sea Dog. The Sea Dog was built in the Navy Yard in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Went in commission in 1944. Now, you probably don't realize in the middle of World War II, Portsmouth, New Hampshire put out a brand new submarine between a week and 10 days. So that shows you how many they had back up they were working on. So the new submarine would go down the East Coast, go through the Panama Canal, go into the Pacific to make war patrols. In the Pacific in World War II, we probably had a little over 200 submarines operating out there. Of these 200 submarines, submarines basically sank over 50% of all the Japanese shipping. Over 50%. However, we paid a loss. We lost 52 submarines, so pretty much 1 out of 4 submarines didn't come back again. I won't go into all the individual war patrols, it's too lengthy. I will talk about the first war patrol. Our first war patrol, we went out, we received 104 depth charges on that patrol. People ask me, they say, Doug, were you afraid? I said, well, no, I really wasn't afraid because of the stories that the old timers told, how bad they were. And so I figured they wasn't even close. So, interesting story here that I want to fit in here. I don't tell this story to make fun of religion or anything else, but I think it's kind of a funny story. I'm a young kid. I'm not a leader. I'm a follower. If those submarine sailors were going to go out and rob a bank, I would be with them. That's how stupid I was. So we had a first-class gunner's mate on there. He had about 16 years in the Navy. He preached atheism. He didn't believe in God. He said if he was hungry, he said God couldn't feed him. Or whatever else he wanted in life, God couldn't take care of him. He believed in the American dollar. So if you listen to the man of the cloth will tell you there's no such a thing as an atheist in the foxhole, meaning that when the bombs come, we all pray to God. This sailor was a true atheist. When we were being depth charged, we were rigged for silent running, and most of the people off watch were in the mess hall. A lot of them had their heads down, praying and everything. So the atheist walks in the compartment, and he looks at him. And like I said, we were a brand new submarine out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. He said, "Hey, you can pray to God all you want." He said, "God can't help you now." He said, "You guys better be praying that the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard made this hull strong enough to take these depth charges." And he laughed at him and he walked away. So I guess he was an atheist. How's my timing, sir? Am I? Couple minutes. Okay. So fortunate for me, I stayed in the Navy. The Navy treated me good. I'm sometimes embarrassed when people thank me for my service because I keep thinking how much the Navy done for me. So I would like to finish up with my short reading. I have down on my notes here Memorial Day 2018. One day off, but that's my notes. Today we gather to honor our comrades in arms who have paid the supreme sacrifice to preserve those freedoms we as a people so often take for granted. On May the 5th, 1866, the people of Waterloo, New York closed their businesses, flew the flag at half-staff, and placed flowers on the graves of their fallen soldiers. Soon the practice of decorating the graves and paying tribute to the dead spread across places both north and south. Moved by these growing local traditions, Major General John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic and the Union Veterans Organization, acted to formalize this observance throughout the country. Just 2 years later, on May the 5th, 1868, by General Order Number 11, he called for a special day of remembrance with the hope that it will be kept up from year to year while a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades. Logan wrote, "This 30th day of May, 1868 is designated Decoration Day." Now, when I was a kid, I was completely confused because the old-timers, Memorial Day, they called it Decoration Day. I couldn't quite figure this out. 5 years later, in 1873, the New York legislature acted to make Decoration Day a legal holiday throughout the state. And in the years immediately following, most other states passed legislation formalizing this commemorative day. In 1882, the holiday was made more inclusive and renamed Memorial Day. And today it recognizes more than, I won't use the numbers dead because we have so many numbers and your commander used the numbers, to recognize all dead from all American wars. For nearly a century, the Memorial Day was celebrated on May 30th. However, in 1971, the last Monday in May was established by law as the official date for this commemoration. So it is that this day, May the 28th, 2018, has been set aside as a special day for all Americans to pause from their daily activities to remember those who have served in the nation's wars. It is important to remember the significance of this unique day. The precious freedoms all generations enjoy today have been bought by the blood and the lives of our fallen comrades. This gift must not be forgotten. We must ensure that our country's heritage is passed on to those who follow in our footsteps. For the very soul of our great country will truly be reduced if we fail to remember the lessons of the past. Thank you. Thank you.
Three dolphins in the room, all right. Now we know the nickname we can use on the others. First, I want to mention one more individual that snuck into the room, Senator Tarr. Now, this past Veterans Day, if you were here during Veterans Day, I just learned of it that day. A family on Forest Street whose son has been serving in the Air Force for more than 20 years and had 5 combat tours. They were going to try to be here today, but they couldn't make it. Lost his life to his time in combat. So we wanted at the post to recognize him permanently downstairs with a memorial plaque. His name is Peter John, known as PJ Pavinsky. He was a Master Sergeant in the U.S. Air Force, Combat Search and Rescue. In the military from 1/11/93 to 9/18/17 when he lost his life. 5 combat tours. His family will be here tomorrow. We're going to honor them with us tomorrow. And then tomorrow we're also going to want to share, because some of you won't be here tomorrow, our beloved Tom Henley. You saw him in the later years with his little scooter bombing around town. Our faithful Marine, once a Marine, always a Marine. He passed away last year, so he had been on the rifle squad for many years and then became the leader of the rifle squad, so we're going to honor him tomorrow as well. And then our rock star, I'm going to call him forward. Machinist mate, 2nd class, Bob Cronin, that I know as Robert.
Yeah, I beat it. I'm older than he is.
You have your dolphin?
Nice to have somebody here older than myself.
I don't know, Henry, where we at? I won't say. He's the handsomest man in the room over there. Have a seat.
Good genes.
That's right.
The only reason I'm here is I got orders from your commander to get a haircut.
Bob was kind of a hippie last week when I saw him, so I made him get a haircut. So this story goes back a couple years. As you can tell in our town, if you've been following the parades and coming to these programs, the military veterans are starting to dwindle. We don't have the numbers we did back when Henry was a kid. You know, World War II and everybody in town went to war and came home. That's just not the case anymore. So it's a great pleasure to be involved with this award that I'm going to present, that he's allowing me to present today. So about maybe 2.5 years ago, we submitted Bob for this award. I'm gonna read a little bit of history about my young friend here. Machinist mate, second class, Navy, vessel YMS 382. It had a crew of 27, including both enlisted and 4 officers. Bob graduated from Ipswich High School and was drafted in Norfolk, Virginia for training in 1944. He went on, the YMS 382 was commissioned 11/18/43. It's a minesweeper, 136 feet by 25 feet. It's a wood hull with 2 20mm guns, or at the time it had 2 20mm guns on its upper hull and 2 50mm guns on its main deck with a speed of 15 knots. And we'll probably talk about how Bob took care of one of those 50 kills during the day. Let's see, on 6/5/1944, the YMS 382 departed for England for the coast of Normandy with a total of 11 other YMS vessels. It was assigned to clear the waters off Normandy Beach for the landings for D-Day. And this was part of the difficulty we had with the award, because you had, in order to get this award that we're presenting, you had to have documentation that you either landed or were in the vicinity of Normandy Beach or the beaches along the coast. On 6/5/1944, they began operations off Omaha, Sword, Juneau, Utah, and Gold. Very well-known beaches. Continuous bombardment was overhead and in the waters. YMS 382 swept Utah Beach for 10 consecutive days. YMS 382 rescued a downed pilot while they were conducting operations that had been shot down overhead. Towards the end of our engagement in the war, YMS 382 was transferred to the Norwegian Navy, and 3 days after Germany surrendered, it was sunk by a German U-boat. Obviously didn't get the word, you know how those submarine guys are. Killed 21 of the 31-member crew. So what we have today, which the likes of this post will never see again, is the French Legion of Honor for his service in the Channel during American operations during the landing. So after many years prior to our involvement, we are successful. And I am proud today to do the pinning for Bob. So if I can have it stand.
Well, you more or less said most of it. And the only thing is, I want people to realize that this started back 50 years ago when I started to watch TV and the landing in France. There was no mention of the minesweepers. And since then, every program I've ever watched, there's no mention of the minesweepers. So this is one reason I did what we two did, is to get this medal, not just for me, but for all the YMSs that were there and what we did for the invasion. We went over the first time all by ourselves and actually could see the soldiers marching on the top of the cliff. We were alongside the two islands loaded with guns. And we got the orders from a PT boat to turn around and go back. We went back to England, we turned around and went back, and that's when the invasion started. So I really want people to realize what we did, and that this medal is just not for me, it's for all my ancestors. Thank you.
Well, the fact that didn't want to come here today, so I had to coach him along, and fortunately his family made him come, and I'm glad to have you all here to be part of this.
Thank you.
And while I was making back to the table, I'll tell you his 50 cal story where he lacked discipline on his firing and maneuvering. He thought it was just go until you run out of ammo. And unfortunately, the barrel bent forward. Elmer Fudd, that was their logo on their vessel.
But I often wonder if they got something, if they had let Elmer Fudd go too.
So I just want to wrap up for maybe the television audience as well. Not sure if everybody knows, but what we do each year is line the streets with the flags, and you see it downtown. It can't make a little town look any better. We do a school march, and our new member, Leland, we came out of Bucher, and he just couldn't believe how great it was. It's one of the best things we do as part of the Legion is to walk through the 5 schools of the school system. It's really incredible. And it gives them the time they're a junior, because the seniors aren't there when we go. They've already graduated. It gives them a complete immersion into patriotism and what it's all about. And I'd like to thank our speech maker, Bill Martin, did a fantastic job. We also do this breakfast every year, and if someone could go in and get the kitchen, I want to recognize them and have them get their just desserts. They work very hard in preparation of this. We do a luncheon tomorrow, which everybody here is invited to, and the community. And then tomorrow we do the parade, and this is our 99th year of this post here, Legion 194. So this has been going on a long time. There's a lot of dedicated kids like young Henry over there that have been doing this for a long time. And I appreciate everybody that does their service. And we have time for either Brad or Bruce to say a quick word, or if they're both quick, we can get them both in for a quick word. And a quick recognition for the staff in the kitchen.
Back to work now. Where were the beans?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll be very brief. I just want to stand it up for a quick second and say thank you to the A.P. Gardner Post. I was honored to be part of 2 of the ceremonies at the middle school and at the Winthrop School. And when they say that Bill was our speech maker and that Bill did a great job, he did a phenomenal job in engaging the kids at the elementary level, and then once we got to the middle school, making them understand what Memorial Day truly, truly is about. When I was in Ipswich a few days ago, I actually stood before the middle school there and I said to them, when I sat in the seats that you sat in, I truly didn't appreciate until I went through my history classes and became an older person to understand what our veterans have gone through and what those who gave their lives for us did for us to appreciate it. You kept them really involved, and believe me, every student that you spoke to on Friday understood what Memorial Day was. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know what the AP Gardner does for us, do you know how proud it is to be a Hamiltonian and drive down Route 1A and see those flags put up? That takes a lot of effort from this group of individuals and volunteers who help them. But more importantly, I like to go to the cemeteries, and I like to see all of the veterans and those who gave their lives, and those flags that are flying are up because of the AP Gardner Post and the volunteers that help them. It is a sight to behold, and as a citizen, someone who grew up in Hamilton, but as a citizen and someone who represents you, I want to say thank you, because those people's memories will never fail, but those lives will never be forgotten, because you have kept those memories alive for all of us. So I just wanted to say thank you for a job well done. Thank you.
We had a great group of volunteers that went to the cemetery this year. We put out close to 850 flags. We had great support from Troop 35 here in town, and a lot of other volunteers, so it was fantastic. We're going to have the church mass at 10 at the Christ Church down on Asbury Street. Everybody's welcome to attend. And I don't know if I've got any other, do I have any other alibis that I should have mentioned in here? Anybody I missed?
Closing prayer.
Our closing prayer. I know there's always something else. We'll move on.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we deem this a fitting time to pay our respects to our departed comrades. As we stand with bowed heads in reverence to them, let us remember the good deeds they accomplished. Let us revere them as good soldiers who fought a good fight in a just cause. Let us silently pray for peace, the peace that passes all understanding. And let us, mind and soul, consecrate our hearts and lives to the real America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, the America worth fighting for. As we stand in silence to our departed comrades, may we sincerely say, may their souls rest in peace. Amen. Thank you, Commander.
And then one last comment, we are having the parade tomorrow, rain or shine. The roofs may not be down on the convertibles, but we will be there. Everybody's welcome. We step off at the town hall at 8:55, go to the Soldiers and Sailors, then to the cemetery, and then back to the town hall, and then Community House and Patton Park. We invite everybody along to participate. Thank you very much for attending today. We're happy to have you.